Welcome to a bonus episode of Black Men Speak. And it's a podcast that highlights ordinary Black men doing extraordinary things. And I just couldn't wait to have the show tonight because the guests, their story, it just needed to be told and just couldn't wait the Sunday and wanted to bring them on as soon as possible. But before we get started, anyone that is a fan of Stevie Wonder knows this line from his song Black Man. That's the iconic album from Songs in the Key of Life. And the line goes like this: who is the first man to set foot on the North Pole? And we all say Matthew Henson, because a Black man. And so, but when it comes to knowing other Black men of color that have led expeditions or been on the mountain, we don't, or actually participate in the sport of mountaineering, we don't hear a lot of African Americans participating. Now, is that by design, or is it just because of what other factors that may be, which we'll probably get into tonight? But for those of you who don't know, there is an American-led expedition called Expedition Denali back in 2013, and they are the first African-American-led team to scale Mount McKinley, which is the tallest peak in North America. Now, Mount Everest is considered at sea level the highest mountain at sea level, which is over 29,031.69 feet. I looked it up. They've had over 4,000 people climb the summit, but only 8 have been Black, with Sabusio Villani being the first. Tonight, my couple of guests that I have on tonight will be making history, because in the spring of 2022, they're going to be leading an all-Black team to climb Mount Everest. And the name of that expedition is called Full Circle Everest. There's a link there's a GoFundMe site that I have on our site right now. So, if you want to support it and hear more about it, please go there. But we have one of the leaders. We have Phil Henderson that's going to be on tonight, and we also have he was gracious enough to come on tonight, and Damon Mullins, and they're going to talk about their story and why this is so important and why they're doing this. But just to give you a little backstory on Phil, he spent nearly 30 years working in the outdoor industry, and his impacts in getting underrepresented people involved in outdoor recreation can't be overlooked. He is a native of California, and he began his career in the outdoors as whitewater rafting, whether it be hiking, canoeing, kayaking. He's done all of that. But in 2013, he became the second Black person to summit Denali. And he's also led an all-Black ascent of Mount Kilimanjaro in 2018. So on that note, we're going to start the show. We're going to bring both of them up. And Damon, Phil, how are you guys doing today?
Blessings. Good evening. Good evening. Doing well.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad you guys are here tonight. And I was just so captivated when I read your story and saw all of the faces that were about to embark on this journey. And when I told my wife about it, she was hoping that she could enlist. And I was like, well, I think you really have to train for it. But I would love to know about Full Circle Everest. Two things. One, how did you come up with the name? One, and what made you decide that you wanted to lead this project? Phil.
So, Full Circle. The name, I've actually had the name for quite a long time, because it really is. It's about giving back, and the way I look at it really is giving forward. So when I got into the industry, I realized that there wasn't a lot of people like me, and it was hard to get people like me to get outside even. But those who may show interest, I was always willing to give them my hand and say, let's go. I'm going to teach you what I know because I've been taught. And so that's really where the full circle came from. What made me want to lead this expedition is, I mean, being in the right position for one. There's not a lot of Black men who can be in that position and lead an expedition. I have a background in outdoor education and leadership, so that sets a tone for me as well, and also sets the challenge in terms of my career in the outdoors. But really looking, at the team, when I met, and it's funny because I was out of the country for a number of years. 2013 to 16, I was living in South America. I was really kind of disconnected from the outdoor industry and what was going on here in the United States. But when I came back and I got reconnected, I was actually out ice climbing, and I met one of our team members, Fred, and I just ran into him. And that doesn't happen. I mean, that had not happened really, out ice climbing, and run into another brother who's ice climbing. And so I was like, yeah, what's up? We met each other. And then from walking over here comes another brother who was Manoa. And I was like, oh, wow, and I realized that they had been connected with another friend of mine, Conrad, and they had been climbing and whatnot. And they throughout have you guys talked about Everest, and it kind of went from there. And then I think a couple of months later, we met Dom, and we met, and we kind of had the conversation, and it kind of blossomed, you know. And that next winter, we said, okay, let's get together. The first time we kind of got together as a team in Ouray again, the year following, which was kind of January 2020. Because we wanted to actually go 2021. And so we got together, Dom, Manoa, Fred, Adina, some other folks couldn't make it, but that was us, And then the other story, so the pandemic came, right? We've been on lockdown, everything got put on hold. During the next winter, I went to Ouray again. I was in a hotel, had my dog. I went to let the dog in the dog park. In walks another brother, Eddie. What's up? How you doing? Oh, what are you doing? Oh, ice climbing. Okay. This ice climbing thing, it attracts us, you know what I'm saying? So a month later, he's in Bozeman. We exchange numbers. He's in Bozeman. He goes and climbs with Manoa. Manoa called me Phil. Conrad called me Phil. We met Eddie in Montana. I think he'd be a good fit for the team. The next week, Eddie calls me. We get together and we go backcountry skiing together for a day. And I threw the idea at him, we vibe and everything. And so Eddie's on the team, and there's a couple of other folks, Abby, Rosemary and I. So Rosemary was on Expedition Denali. I was on another expedition at the same time. We shared camp. And so that's when I first met Rosemary. And KG and I go way back on our Knowles days working together at Knowles. And so he was a part of that expedition as well. But I spent time with KG in Kenya. So
okay. Yeah, that's great. That's a fantastic.
Wait, and Phil, now this is going to be like the third continent you did an expedition with Rosemary on?
Right, yeah, it'd be the third continent with her and I. So yeah, it was Kilimanjaro with Denali, and then we were together in Chile as well, So we're all connected in different ways. We're not just all, just people who just can't kind of on the team. We're all connected through one person or another. Yeah, for sure.
And with you being the East Coaster, I think, when I did the research on who was on the team, you're the only East Coast guy. How did it feel when you first met Phil and got connected with some of your other team members?
I mean, I have to say I was really surprised. I had been climbing I had been doing some sort of climbing, whether it was mountaineering or ice climbing or rock climbing for, 10 years before I had ever met another Black person playing the sport, climbing. And actually, the first person that I met climbing, black person that I met climbing, was Manoa. I met Manoa Anu in Highlight Canyon, Montana, when I was out there on an ice climbing trip. And we climbed together the first time. Conrad Anker, the North Face ambassador, introduced me to Phil. And then I had the pleasure of going out to Ouray Ice Fest and climbing with Phil and Fred Campbell and Manoa Anu. It was incredible. So for me, especially, you know, I enjoy going out to Highlight Canyon, but you know, my stomping grounds it's the Northeast. It's New England. And I've never climbed with another person of color in New England.
Yeah, so so that was really a highlight moment to be able to climb with other people of color.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, talk about a little bit, because you alluded earlier that when expeditions come about, I guess they post it, and then if people want to join, then they will join the expedition. But you're doing it a little different, where you created kind of this team environment. And so, and if that's true, why did you do it that way, as opposed to just, okay, I'm posting the expedition, you know, those that want to join? What made you decide to do it this way?
It naturally happened through another connection. So Conrad really is Conrad Anchor really is the anchor that brings all of us. He's one of them that brings us really together, in a sense, because Conrad gave me an opportunity there's a program called the Khumbu Climbing Center, where we actually train Nepalis, folks from Nepal, and that are primarily from the Sherpa community, in technical skills. Okay, so that they're better employees and better workers, and can manage risk greater when they're on the mountain, because they have the probably the biggest presence on the mountain. Okay. So that was in 2006. And so Conrad, he never, I mean, I remember when we met, and he never looked at me like, you know, who are you or whatever. He was like, oh, you have some skills and you want to volunteer, you're in. And he recognized right off the bat what I had to offer and the role that I could play. And I think he's done that with, you know, 3 or 4 of us as well. He's in that position. So Conrad's one of those white dudes that get it, right? And so that was in 2006, and I've been to Nepal almost every year since then, unless I was out of the country. But then we went we were on Everest together in 2012, so he provided that opportunity as well. And so I look back to get, again, full circle, to provide that same opportunity for folks who can now have the opportunity to not have the same experience that I did when I was on Everest, being one of, you know, 12 other people, being the only Black person there, right? We have the opportunity to do this differently. And for me, no joke, I said it the first time. And to give you an example, the first Everest expedition it was a commemorative expedition put together by the North Face and National Geographic to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the first American expedition. So I was a part of that team, and it included various people: Hillary O'Neill at the time, Conrad, Corey Richards, Mark Jenkins, Eric. There's Sam Elias, Emily Harrington. I mean, people in the climbing community know these names, and I was a part of that group. 5 people summited, 1 person summited with no oxygen, 2 people summited 2 8,000-meter peaks. I went to Camp 3. For me, that's as high as I had ever gone. But also, I got to work with these people from Nepal and these Sherpa people from the Sherpa community, who I had been helping train for the past 7, 8 years. So to me, I'm like, why would I go back to Everest? Why? Just to try and summit? No, there's no reason for that. I'd go to another mountain. but I always said I'd go back for the right reason. Never knew what that
Mm,
right reason would be, right?
mhm.
So now we fast forward, and I have the opportunity to go back for this reason, to be, to lead these guys that I've just met through Conrad. Because while I was out of the country, he was doing the same thing and providing these opportunities for these young climbers, you know. And so it's all full circle. That's and the name was already there. It just fits. And so
Yeah,
when
hence the name.
we I think we were on a call. We were on a group call, if I'm not mistaken. We asked about a name for it, and I threw it out there. And we threw
Yeah.
some other things out there, but the full circle, one stuck. So yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Um, so you mentioned Sherpa, and I know you had. I know I'd read something, or in doing the research, you mentioned something about the Sherpa way, and what is that, and why is that so special in regards to, I guess, Mount Everest or climbing? Why is the Sherpa way so important?
Well, I'll put it in kind of in the simple way, in that
Okay.
um, people from the Sherpa community are mistaken and misunderstood. And so once you understand and know something about the culture, and you realize that you can't call someone a Sherpa. It's like that's their caste of people, that's their culture, right? So if you consider someone who's carrying a bag a Sherpa, that's not right. Okay,
Mm,
that's a
mhm.
porter. Okay, but if you are Sherpa, your name is Pasang Lamu Sherpa. Okay, so if you are of the Sherpa community, that is basically your last name. It's not just someone who carries, uh, luggage or someone's things for them. That's a porter. But the culture itself is long been in the Himalayas for thousands and thousands of years. And when you go to the Himalayas, you realize that this culture lives amongst this grand scale of mountains that are bigger than any mountains anywhere else on earth. Um, and they live in that environment, amongst that environment, the way that they have for thousands of years, and it shows. And in that part of the world, there are no cars, there's no bicycles, there's no nothing. The only way you get anywhere is to walk. And these people have been walking these hills and these mountains for thousands of years, and you feel it.
Mm,
And the more time
that's
you
deep.
spend there, I've spent more time with some of the Sherpa people in Nepal than I have with some of my own family here, you know. And
That's
I've had family members. My grandmother died when I was there, and they treated me as if she was there.
mm,
So that my connection, I've had their family members here at my house, and my daughters and my wife have been there. So that connection to me that's family, you know. And so even bringing my brothers and sisters over there, it's like it's introducing this these family members in a group too, because see, they know us by one here, one there, but they don't know us as a group of people either.
that's fantastic. I'm really hyped about that. But thank you for sharing that,
Yeah, man.
because that's really that's important to know, because uh, it helps us to be connected to cultures that we don't particularly know, and it bonds us together in a way
Yeah.
that we just don't do enough of. So
Right.
let's kind of move to the actual expedition itself. So, and Dom, I'll ask you this question: what have you one when you realized you were going to be on this expedition? How long did it take to prepare yourself for it, and what are some of the things that you've had to do to prepare for this journey that's coming up?
Well, so some of the well, certainly there's a lot of preparation, and a lot of the preparation when it comes to training, conditioning your body, is like you want to do a lot of low intensity work over a long duration, so you expand your endurance. And so I have a training regimen that has been developed by Training Peaks. This is a website online, and it gives me workouts, low intensity, long duration workouts to build my strength and endurance over the next few months, so to prepare me for the expedition. But for this team, there's also been a lot of preparation for the expedition in terms of even just putting the team together and gaining funding for the expedition. So we worked on that for a long time, and coronavirus came down in the middle of our plans, just as Phil was explaining, and that sort of exploded everything. So when you ask about the preparation for this has been in the running for years now, especially because our plans were dropped because coronavirus interrupted everything.
Okay, so it's been a couple of years in the making, and primarily from the funding side.
Yeah.
But I guess it's also been a blessing because it allowed you to actually get more funding and get the word out a little more because of that. So
yeah, I would say now, we're stronger than we've ever been in terms of the support that we have and the funding that in order to launch this expedition. So we're really fortunate to be in the position that we are right now.
Great. Phil, anything addition to add on that? Because you pretty much have been doing this your whole life. So
I mean, but Everest is it really is off the scale. And if you look at, outside of maybe logistics getting to Antarctica, and some things like that, but Everest really is off the scale of most expeditions, because you have to acclimate, and it's, you're living at 17,000 feet and above for 2 months. So most places, you go to Denali, that's 25 days. Go to Kilimanjaro, it's a week. There's not a lot of places where you have to go that take that long to acclimate and climb. And you could probably do a little shorter if you were doing it all the time, but we're not. So, there's a lot of different things there.
Right. So to be clear, you can't actually you can't just step off the plane or when you get there and start climbing. You actually have to acclimate your body and yourself before you start climbing. I have seen a couple of shows
once you leave town, once you leave the city Kathmandu, when you start to go in the mountains, it's 10 days before you get to base camp.
Oh wow, 10 days. Okay. And then you kind of have to, and then is it more time before you actually will start
the climb?
The climb. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, I mean, in leading to that, and I'm trying to put it out there, but I mean, I have seen where a team member or someone that's climbing will get left behind, I think, if they can't make it. So is that also going to be the strategy, or will it be all, one team, one sound? If you all go as a team. How will that work?
No, it's just I mean, that's the way of the land. You can be, you're a team for sure, but people can get turned around and others keep going. Yeah, it happens all the time. From my Everest experience, I've always say it's not when you get sick. It's not if you get sick. It's when you get sick, depending on what that sickness is and when it happens. Because if it happens early in the expedition, you have time to get sick and recover, and you can still climb. If it happened in the middle, you have a choice to make. If it happens towards the end, game over. So things can happen anywhere in there that determine who keeps going and who doesn't. And then that, again, it's all so much of it is a mental game too, because you can recover, or remembering. And I truly believe that going through this pandemic actually adds to the success to the ultimate success of the expedition, because people are washing their hands more, and these things that keep you from getting GI problems. So there's so much that goes, just everyday life, but things are kind of elevated in terms of the chances that you can get sick or injured or any of those things. And if that happens, you're living at 17,000 feet, you don't recover well.
Wow. So just some everyday simple things that may take you out. And you said GI,
Right.
so I would assume some some kind of intestinal thing, or due to bad food or not washing your hands or what have you, or just exposed with other team members can
Yeah.
cause you to not be able to finish.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Infection. If you cut yourself, you can get infected. And because you're at 17,000 feet, you don't heal well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So I wanted to well, and I know it's in March. Is it going to be the beginning of March or the end of
It's toward
March?
the end of March. So basically, we have all of April, all of May.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And will you um how will people be able to will they be able to follow it live, or how's that going to work?
Oh yeah.
Or will you be posting via Instagram or what have you or
Yeah,
somehow?
yeah. We will definitely be connected somehow. No, the hope is that we'll be doing a few live Zoom chats or broadcasts, Google chats or whatever from base camp, really to allow people to engage with us while we're on the mountain, because that's possible. It's easily done these days. So that's another good part of it, and we're hoping that we can get school kids to call in. And even though there's it's kind of hard for us because there's a time difference, so we might have to
Right.
stay up a little late or whatever, but just to give them the opportunity to talk to some
Mhm.
guys who's on Mount Everest, and maybe learn something about that part of the world, about the culture or something, whatever they want to ask. So
Right.
we're really
Right.
hoping to bring that right into the homes of or school, the classrooms as well. So yeah.
I mean, that would be fascinating. When I was in school, I would have flipped out to have the opportunity to speak to someone like that. On some extreme expedition like that, you're sitting in class with your classmates, just even trying to imagine what it is that these people are doing.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
people think it's like
Mhm.
it's on the moon or something. It's like, no, it's not. It's like this is within your reach. This is within your reach right here.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
and that's a
many other
great
places.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's a great segue, because one of the debates that I was getting to with my wife before I came here, and my son, because he's 18, was about basically representation and how you would get passionate about a sport like this. So, so a couple questions is, one, how did you get passionate about the sport? And and then also, how does it what has been kind of the response you've received from young people? Because of course I was saying is that we get passionate about something when someone brings it to us.
Right.
And or show, when you're younger, when it shows it into us in school. It's not just about going online or YouTube to research it. Now it's it's much more powerful when someone that looks like us actually presents it to us. So I would
Yeah.
love to hear your comments on that.
Yeah, Phil, you want to explain your beginnings first, or?
I mean, I've always, I'm an athlete, and that's one of those things for some people. It's just like, look, if you're already an athlete, you have half the game won. You just haven't been exposed to these things. Okay, you should try it. Okay, but because I'm also, uh, I, I tell people, I have to explain it to them. I'm not a climber. I'm not a boater, whatever. I'm an outdoor professional, and so I had to diversify my skills in order to be able to make a living and to work. And then those things become enjoyment as well. Okay. And so what I've learned is that there are a lot of these outdoor, activities you can do, but it's not going to resonate. Not everybody can be a rock climber. Not everybody's going to be able to handle ice climbing. It's too cold, right? Not everybody's going to ski. or kayak or canoe or raft, or mountain bike or any of these things, but get exposed to all of them, and then get in where you fit in, right? One of them is gonna resonate, and you're gonna be comfortable in one spot or whatever. There's and then you just gotta try it. So much of it is about exposure, but then you don't want to expose yourself a lot of times to look like the guy who don't know what he's doing, right? Or because remember, you're already fighting that thing that your father or your mother told you don't go do that because you're gonna hurt yourself. So now you have all these things that are telling you don't go do it, but yet in your mind you're saying I want to do it. But then when you see someone look like you that does it, you're like, oh, okay, maybe.
Right.
And then your mom like, mom, look, see, it is like, you see what I'm saying?
There is somebody doing it. Yeah.
Right. And so I have good friends that have accomplished a lot of things, and I have a good friend who he doesn't do public speaking or anything like that, and I understand that it's not who he is as a person, blah blah blah. But he also has room for that because there are 1,000 of him, not him himself, but that are doing a lot of these activities and so on that can go talk about it and bring in other people in that interest and so on, right? Where in our community there's only there are not that many of us, and so we don't really have I don't feel like we really have the choice to say no. We have to bring that out into the community and say, hey, no, you can do this too. I've done it, let me help you. So that's really again what Full Circle's about.
Exactly.
Later on when we can sit back and go, yeah, y'all do it because we have that stance in the industry. We have such a foundation in it where right now we just don't have that. And but shows, and podcasts like this and talks like this are definitely helping and gonna help and continue to help because we now it becomes mainstream. We can have this with 4 or 5 other people in the next year and the next year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Don, what about you?
Yeah, I came into mountaineering. I came into ice climbing and rock climbing through the military. Actually, once I served in the Army, I was an armor crewman. I was in Iraq in 04 and 05. Afterwards, I was working in a number of different veterans organizations. And one organization that I worked in Colorado, I had the opportunity to meet a man by the name of Stacy Bear, and I climbed Gray's Peak by invitation with him, which is a 14,000-foot mountain. That was my first mountain. And I never climbed like that before. But while I was in the military, especially because I was in a combat specialty, I had to hike long distances carrying lots of equipment. I had to move across, I had to negotiate terrain features on a team. And plan our food out and our schedule out and orient ourselves, so navigate and also make preparations to deal with the weather, inclement weather. So all of the dynamics I understood well, and I had some experience with, but I never did it in a civilian context. And because I grew up in Brooklyn, I didn't even know that people really did that. It wasn't even something that ever dawned on me when I was a kid that people, were sort of adventuring in the wilderness like that. And that you could learn skills to go and adventure in the wilderness. So the military introduced me to that. And then Stacy Bear took me on my first hike as a civilian. And then from there, I continued to climb with the organization that he founded called Veterans Expeditions. And so through that organization, I really fell in love with the mountains, mountaineering, and particularly ice climbing. So since I guess that was 2009. So since 2009, I've been mountaineering and climbing. And for me, it's also been very therapeutic to just be in nature, to have an excuse to be in nature, to look forward to it, to look forward to the change of the seasons, because your opportunity to climb or hike this trail or camp in this place is going to come up. It's really something that yeah, it every year it inspires me, with the change of the seasons. What I know is going to come. It's almost like looking at your birthday, but it comes every season and it's a different game. Rock climbing in the summer and in the spring. Ice climbing in the winter, and you get to do some, summit some, alpine peaks like Denali and Kilimanjaro, and you learn about all these amazing places in the world. And now we have this opportunity through Phil to go to Nepal. Now, coming from where I've come from, growing up in the inner city in Brooklyn, there's absolutely no way no one that I knew ever did anything like this.
Right.
And so it's just incredible to have taken one opportunity, or taken one experience and then go to the next thing. And that's one thing that I encourage people all the time, is like, and that's a similar thing to what Phil was saying, is like, you don't know what something's going to be like, and you don't know if you'll like it until you try it, And so the first 14,000 foot mountain that I did in Colorado with Stacy Bear, he just said, hey, you want to go hiking with me? And I was like, sure. And then next thing you know, we were figuring out how to do this 14,000 foot peak, and it changed my life, and now it's something that, as I said, I look forward to seasonally.
Great. And for our novice audience, what is terrain features? What is that?
So when we say terrain features, basically what you're talking about are all the different, all of the different sort of obstacles on the land that you would have to negotiate, that you would have to travel across. Let's say if you're moving across a ridge is a particular sort of terrain feature. If you're moving across, let's say, like an inclined plane, and so that you're going up in elevation, well, the fact that you're going up in elevation, you're moving across a certain terrain feature that has higher elevation. And so terrain features are basically like, if you look at a map, you're not expecting that all that you see on the map is flat. You're expecting it to have, various differences, characteristics of the land. And so that's what we're talking about with terrain features, the characteristics of the land.
And of course, you have to do that in advance before your hike to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly, because then you have to know, so then you know what you need to prepare for.
Okay. For those people listening, so you need to know the terrain before you start just walking out there. So that's great. Good to know. And I just wanted to make sure, because that's part of it, not just getting out there and doing it, really understanding the language and doing what is necessary, or just learning about it before you actually go out and do it. You know how we do. We just like, we think we can just step out there and know what we're doing before you know it, you're stuck and somebody's got to come get you.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So it's funny because that's where I look at it, and you can go out with someone, with someone else, whatever. But if you like to recreate, I look at it 3 different levels. Recreation, you get out there and you enjoy doing it. You'll go out with somebody, do it, blah blah blah. Okay, you enjoy it. Now, what's the next step? You may just stay right there, or you're like, I got a little bit more interest. What's the next step? So then you start educating yourself about how to read the terrain, how to read a map, the different types of techniques. If you're ice climbing or rock climbing, whatever, you start to educate yourself about the different activities there can be, whether you're still on a river, but can you kayak, canoe, or get on a raft, or nowadays stand up paddle board, and all these other different things that you can do. But so there's so many choices of things that you can do. And if you like it that much, and now you're educated, now you're like, man, I can teach my partner how to do this, and then he can do it. So now you start teaching people like, man, I can get paid for this. I can actually teach people how to do these things. And so you started just as a recreational person. You just like doing it. You educated yourself. Now you're at the level where you can now be employed. Okay, so there's a whole industry out here of places where
Mm,
people can go. They got to go through steps just like anything else, right? If you want to be whatever it is you want to be, an accountant, if you want to be a teacher, whatever it is, you still have to go through these steps. Most people don't know that this industry really exists, and that's just on the activity side. That's not
mm.
on the front side of, accountants and graphic designers and product designers and all of these other things that may not fit you from an activity standpoint, but it's still within the outdoor industry that most people don't even know exists.
Wow, that's yeah, and that's true, and that's true. And I know is that, and I know we didn't really touch upon it. We started to talk about it. Um, is it a So I know you guys were. It sounds like you were welcomed. Then you found someone that brought you along
Yeah.
into uh, into the sport. Didn't look at your skin color or anything like that. Just saw you as people and brought you in because you had an interest. So is that do you think, going forward, or as once your expedition is completed and you have gotten a lot, some publicity to get the story out, do you think the gap where we will get more people of color interested, do you think that will close, or what will it take for that to happen?
It won't close the gap. No, that's. I mean, I've always said this, that I have a lot of analogies about these different things and how things, turn corners and so on and whatnot. And I think it's always been a cruise ship. It's been going that direction. I said this a long time ago, and it takes a cruise ship a long time to turn around and start going back the other way because it's big. But I really think that cruise ship is now facing the other direction, but it has no propulsion yet. It has some, but it's not enough to get it moving, in that
Mhm.
direction. It's facing it, but it's not moving. And this is one of those, this is yet another engine in that movement, right? There's a lot of other small engines as well, but I mean, and we're just, and I don't mean small in, just small in what draws people, right? So there's a lot of, you look at Outdoor Afro, they're doing wonderful things. You look at Brown Girls Climb, you look at Memphis Rocks, you look at Color of the Crags, you look at uh, Latino Outdoors, Asia Outdoors, all these organizations that are really doing things for their community. They're all part of that propulsion as well, right? Part of that ship that's turned around. Um, but Everest is an iconic mountain. That's why we're talking now. If this was just, you know, the Grand Tetons with 10 of us, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you because it doesn't have that same iconic draw worldwide, not let alone nationwide. You know what I mean? Had this been 3 years ago, maybe we wouldn't be having the same conversation, but it it resonates more now than it would have at any other time, you know. And so we're not closing. We won't close the gap. That's going to take a lot more. That's going to take a lot more to close the
Mhm.
gap. But we're definitely making people aware that they can be a part of that gap closure as well. You know, and that's what it takes is a lot more participation on our side as well. You know.
Okay, great. Dom, anything extra to add?
Yeah, yeah. I truly think that the educational piece that Phil mentioned is really important. And what's gonna move the numbers toward more people of color getting outside and more people of color being in outdoor sports and more people of color becoming outdoor professionals is going to be expanding outdoor education and access to outdoor education for people. And a lot of that's going to take place with the expansion of social capital. And so this is what we're presenting here. It's like, this image of Black people getting out and normalizing that. normalizing this image of Black people enjoying themselves in the outdoors. Black people also being into outdoor sports. And so, you know, as more people of color get in the outdoors, as more people of color get an outdoor education and learn how to play these outdoor sports, learn how to participate safely, you'll see that accelerate. But that's that's going to be the first piece, is social capital. Where do you go to learn these things? You know, who do you meet who knows how to do these things? How do we create a network of people to make opportunities for, you know, young people to learn how to get outside?
That's great. Yeah. And I'm saying I'm doing my part. I'm out there in the woods every day walking my dog. And and I do think, you know, and even just for this show now, I'm really excited. I'm definitely going to have to, for 2022, to go on a hike, because we as people are connected to nature. And I think we of course, you know, been driven from that, but we do need to get back to it, because there is some therapeutic properties that come with being in nature that we have to expand. So I want to thank you guys for being on the show tonight. And before we wrap up, there's always a question I always ask the brothers on the show, that don't necessarily have to do what we're talking about, but just you as men. And the question is, what are you feeling as a Black man at this time?
I guess I'll go first. I mean, with reference to this expedition, for me, Black barbershops have always provided really important pastimes for me. And so I had the opportunity to have a conversation about this expedition at a barbershop a few weeks ago. A buddy of mine was cutting my hair. And, you know, a lot of, it was all Black men in the barbershop, and it became a subject matter to talk about. And my friend, he likes to look at climbing. He dibs and dabs in climbing, but he doesn't really climb. And one person had asked if this was running away from a problem. If you go in the mountains, is that like running away from a problem? And I thought that was a really profound question, right? Because if we're saying that, you know, getting outside and exercising and enjoying yourself in the outdoors and sharing that in the outdoors and national parks, is that fleeing a problem, or is it a way that you flee your problems, or is it a way that you are solving your problems? And so I tend to look at it as the latter. That it's solving a problem. It's solving these sort of lapse in addressing health shortfalls in our community. The lapse in, you know, supporting, you know, mental health in our community. Just being outside in nature supports our mental health, you know. Also, you know, there was something that you just said, Keith, this idea that, like, you know, Black people don't do this, or Black people don't do that, or, you know, especially as I said, you know, I grew up in the inner city. I grew up in Brooklyn. And so there was a lot of that sort of prohibitive talk about like what Black people do and don't do. And it's like, it's only been within the 20th century that we've even had enough technology to separate ourselves from nature, enough to normalize the fact that we aren't out in nature all the time. You know, prior to that, we didn't have the technology to talk about ourselves as separate from nature. You know, like, we had to deal with nature. Dealing with nature was the nature of our lives.
Right.
And so we're more suited to that, to being in nature than not. We're more suited to being in a natural environment than we are even in these sort of artificial environments that we built, you know? This is why our health suffers from just sitting in these artificial environments that we built. We
Right.
need to be outside. We need to be walking. We need to be running and exercising. And as Phil was saying, it doesn't have to be something extreme. It could just be something that you just enjoy. But get outside and exercise. And it's certainly solving a problem.
Great. Yeah, I love it. Phil, what about you?
Yeah, man. For me, is everything is all connected, and I'll be real honest and transparent about it. And that I'm blessed, man, in so many ways. And just after hearing what Dom said, and if I can't even wait till Dom till the winter time. It's gonna be winter, in the middle of winter time, so it'll be a little bit different. But what he was just explaining is kind of what I've built for myself. But it's come through hardships of there's a lot of sacrifices of not being in your community to get to levels of which you can do. Then Dom and I have talked about these things, and there's a lot of sacrifices you had to make. I had to make to be able to do these things. And no, I've always gone home, but at some point you can't go home. You got to go climbing if you want to increase your skills to climb. You got downtime. You got to go climb. But I say that because I'm a black man. I'm 58 years old. I lived through some things, and a lot of my partners and homeboys didn't make it. So I'm already I've already beat some odds that are against us in that sense. But I've also been blessed to have that vision to do something different. And then to still be here to be able to share that experiences with my man, Dom, and all my other brothers and sisters on this team. But at the same time, during pandemics or when I walk outside, like Dom was just saying, if I could show you what I look at, if I just walk out in the driveway in the morning, I can be at peace in here where I live on this compound. But at the same time, we have so much other things going on in our country. Where I live at, when I step outside of that, it's not always the same. So for me, the other thing is that it's the same all over again.
Great. Well, I do have to say that it's been a blessing just to talk to the two of you, and it would have been great to have the whole team, maybe at some other time especially maybe when you get back, to really get reflections of, especially of the other brothers on the team, and hey, maybe we'll have the sisters too, because this is a monumental thing that you guys are doing, and I'm really glad that you guys were able to come on tonight. And for those that have listened, even though I have the link up on the show, I will put it in my chat so people can support, and follow this monumental occasion. So Dom and Philip, thank you for being on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Keith, for having us, man. Blessings.
Okay.
No doubt.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe I'll run into you in Colorado in a couple of days. So I thank you guys for being on tonight, and you have a good night.
All right.
Okay.
Enjoy yourself with that hike.
All right, I will. Thank you. So this is truly wonderful. Go find Full Circle Everest and support it, and really follow these brothers and sisters that are going to be on the hike. Tell people that this is happening, because this is a monumental occasion. And so this is our bonus episode. I'll be on Sunday, this Sunday at 6 p.m. for another great show. So thank you and good night.